Welcome, everyone. U.S. President Donald Trump's deployment of military-style armed agents to U.S. cities to crack down on immigration has again run into violent outcome. This time, an agent with Immigration and Customs Enforcement has taken the life of an unarmed white mother of 3 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And it's not the first time the president has deployed ICE to major metropolitan areas of America or the National Guard soldiers to quell protests resulting from their deployment or a violent outcome for American citizens as a result. And this ICE murder of a U.S. citizen as a direct result of Donald Trump's domestic policy and backing a crackdown on protests is the focus of our Spotlight program. But first, here's a report.
No! No! Shame! Shame!
What began as a routine immigration enforcement operation turned deadly on Wednesday when an ICE agent shot and killed 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good, a mother of 3, inside her SUV on a Minneapolis street. Within hours, hundreds of protesters took to the streets and the scene of the shooting, chanting for justice. Demonstrations quickly spread to other cities, with vigils held in New York, Chicago, and Seattle, as calls grow for accountability and an end to aggressive federal immigration tactics.
We're not going to stop because you're killing us. We're not going to stop. We're going to stay here, and we're willing to, let our lives be on the line for this.
President Donald Trump moved quickly to back the ICE agent, posting that the woman had violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer, a claim contradicted by video evidence reviewed by local officials. Minneapolis police described the shooting as an unnecessary escalation that cost a woman her life. Mayor Jacob Frey, who has reviewed the footage, dismissed the federal narrative as garbage and called on ICE to withdraw from the city altogether.
They are not here to cause safety in this city. What they are doing is not to provide safety in America. What they are doing is causing chaos and distrust.
The killing has reignited a national debate over the use of force by federal agents, intensified by Trump's outspoken support for the shooter, even as city leaders and human rights advocates condemn the action. Critics say the president's stance exposes a deep hypocrisy in his human rights rhetoric, denouncing much less violence abroad while endorsing lethal force against civilians at home.
It's really time, I think, for everyone in the United States who doesn't want to live under this madman Trump dictatorship to rise up and push any pro-Trump loyalist forces out of your neighborhood, out of your city, out of your state.
Under the Trump administration's expanded immigration enforcement campaign, multiple people have died during ICE encounters or in detention, including fatal shootings during traffic stops in suburban Chicago and deaths linked to overcrowded facilities. As protests continue and investigations get underway, the case is fueling broader scrutiny over how far the U.S. government is willing to go in resorting to brute force at home and whether it can credibly claim moral authority regarding human rights abroad while killing its own people.
And now joining us for the program is, and for our guests, Mr. Netfa Freeman, their coordinating committee member from Black Alliance for Peace, joining us out of Washington, D.C. And Daniel Patrick Welch, writer and geopolitical analyst, joining us out of Massachusetts. Hello, gentlemen. Almost got ahead of myself there. Welcome to the program, to the two of you. I usually start with whoever has the age here, but it seems like all 3 of us are children of the late 60s, early 70s, so I guess it's a coin flip. Daniel, I guess we'll start with you. Daniel Patrick Welch joining us out of Massachusetts. Your thoughts, sir, when you first saw Renee Nicole Good, mother of 3, 37-year-old citizen, shot at point-blank range by an ICE agent in Minneapolis. What kind of feelings did that stir up for you?
Well, I was stunned, and I was extremely angry. I was teaching, at the time, and I'm trying to deal with little kids and how they perceive politics and social studies, and how the truth is warped by the U.S. Media system. the class and race orientation of these poisonous, infectious media outlets. And I think that one of the things, obviously, this is really, hard to say, but it's not the first. This is number 32, just of the people who ICE has murdered. This is the first one on video, and it's a white woman who is a mother. There's nothing that makes it less horrific, right? But it is a case in point where this is getting enormous national, international attention, as well it should. And it should be a catalyst for movement against these fascist tactics and the unwillingness of the Trump regime and the sycophant clingers to power who are holding on to this this sociopath, but with power to enforce an agenda that is racist and obviously classist and beyond out of control.
Thank you, Mr. Welch. Mr. Netfa Freeman, pleasure to have you on the program, sir, and thank you for your patience. Netfa, your opening thoughts as well when you first saw this American mother killed by a man in military fatigue in her hometown, deployed there by President Donald Trump to supposedly fight illegal immigration.
Mm-hmm. Well, the immediate thoughts is that this is the escalation. It's indicative of the escalation we've been seeing around this administration. This administration that is actually the what we've referred to as maybe the neo-fascist expression of what neoliberalism and white supremacy and patriarchy has brought in this country. The Democrats, all Democratic Party, also responsible for the neoliberal Democratic Party. So this is a result of that. What we're witnessing right now is a situation where the capitalist class and the crisis that it's in is being seen by not only everyone around the world, but also domestically. So we can see the kidnapping of a democratically elected leader in Venezuela, to the genocide, supporting of the genocide in Gaza, a proxy war in Ukraine, the trade wars, and all of this stuff are par for the course, where all of this is being exposed and seen clearly by both the people internationally and domestically. And so what this particular incident represents, the fact that, like our guest said, that this is a quote unquote middle class white woman, shows, and then it's not just that. I think it shows how far they're willing to go. The fact that this person, according to them, was like they were following ICE agents and taking recordings of them. So the suggestion is we will broach no resistance whatsoever. We're not going to stand for anything, and that. The fact that they are willing to kill this person, we know that they're willing to kill. This is what the United States does. Right. And so when their legitimacy and lies fall apart, then they have nothing left but brute force.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. And Mr. Welch, this deployment of Army-style soldiers in full military fatigue and full Kevlar with assault weapons to civilian populated areas, not just Americans, but no country's civilian population wants to see soldiers in their neighborhoods. Doesn't Trump see how that makes the U.S. look weaker and more chaotic than actually a country that's on top of its stuff?
Yeah, I think that's true. It does make that really obvious. I think, and Netfa was completely right in pointing out that the thing about this is how far they will go. And Trump's personal situation, he really is a megalomaniac and a narcissist. I think that people don't clearly understand. He's not a politician. He is a racist, but he's not a white nationalist. He's not a conservative. He's not even a Republican. He is just a megalomaniac who is clinging to something he wants. And personally, we have to respond to that as sociopathic. And that's important to make the distinction. The problems are exactly as my co-guest explained, is this capitalistic class, gaining full control. And they're using Trump because he's an easy puppet to use. But when you go through both the people Stephen Miller, who is an out-and-out Nazi, Kristi Noem, who is inept in addition to being a fascist, and you go down the line to the rest of the Christian nationalists, and all these people have coalesced around this idiot, basically, and it's an incredibly dangerous time, and it is a flashpoint because they have nothing left. There's nothing that the Democratic Party has not sought to achieve in terms of they funded ICE. You know, they mostly have, or not mostly, but many of them have agreed with his imperialist, like absolutely illegal war attack on Venezuela and the kidnapping of a foreign leader. But this is beyond all that now. It really literally blows the lid off of something that has been simmering for a long while. But it's like another Kent State. And I say that because I'm distinguishing it from Jackson State. Kent State became the national flashpoint and the basis of the song and all that stuff. But the Mississippi Guard had already killed black students a month earlier in Jackson. And, you know, it isn't even part of the white-dominated history. So it is important that this is really, really coming to the fore, but it's not. Thank you. It doesn't make it different.
Thank you. There.
Sorry.
No problem. Netfa, Trump has a lot to say recently about protests all over the planet, but the weekly protests against Benjamin Netanyahu to resign due to graft or his handling of the Gaza genocide, or the nearly bi-weekly protests that we're seeing in the States against Donald Trump's leadership, and often a couple times a week in front of the White House, he has nothing to say about. Why?
Why he has nothing to say about the ones in front of the White House and
the ones in Tel Aviv, others? But in other countries, especially countries he deems as adversaries, he's got a lot to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand. Well, this is, a reflection. It's not even just Donald Trump in this group. What the example you're talking about, the narrative and the media and the propaganda they try to present around the world is that this is there's no opposition, there's no dissent or anything within the United States. The United States government is a rogue state, and Donald Trump and the conditions that he is dispensing, or his administration and all that they're fostering, are not conditions of their own creation. And in fact, those emerging conditions gave rise to a Donald Trump. The fact that this country can even put in place someone, as the guest said, is a megalomaniac, and that there are people who saw the kind of things he was espousing as in their interest is a testament to the system here. The United States is not a democracy; it's an oligarchy, and so the fact that the masses of the people, whether they be in the United States or anywhere else, are protesting means nothing to them. They don't really care about the interest of the people. The people, particularly working class people everywhere, and then particularly those who are working class and non-white, are only means to an end for them. And to the extent that the neoliberal system has no use, there's an excess population, so to speak, and the ability for the system to manage and contain everyone is a problem. And so this is what we're saying. He has one thing to say about what's here and nothing to say what's other places, nothing to say about here, because it's the narrative they have in their head. They also can't even really understand, and this is all of the ruling class in the United States, they can't really understand people, the working class people and the masses of people and the collective dignity that we have. So for example, in Venezuela, they thought that they could just take over Venezuela by taking the president, but they don't realize that the people have been on a course of self-determination. It's the kind of course that we see inside, in terms of what people are protesting for inside the United States is the same thing. The only difference is the states against that chart inside the United States, whereas in other countries where like self-determination, in Venezuela, they found it. And so he can't look at it here, and he can't even understand it wherever it is.
Great take there. And Daniel, Patrick Welch, same question to you. Trump sees protests in places he considers it as adversary countries as unacceptable, and even gets involved in the process of rhetoric to pump up the protesters or make threats against those governments, while not seeing the stark irony, Daniel, on the hypocrisy that he is entertaining in the process.
Yeah, I think exactly as my friend says, this is nothing. There's nothing new about it, and there's nothing different in terms of how the ruling class operates. The only difference is that Trump has this person. It's very easy for him. He has no love for any human being, any mammal, I don't think. And so it's easy for him to do what he has done for his entire life, which is not give a damn, no empathy in his system at all. But that dovetails very neatly with the class position of not knowing and not caring about what the masses of people are going through. And I think the comparison to Venezuela, I think, was beautifully said there, because it's the irony is incredible. Rubio can think without understanding democracy. These are elected senators and elected politicians. They don't understand democracy at all, and they don't even know what it means. To say that you could pluck, and they tried to do it in your country a couple of months ago. They tried to, this decapitation strike, and what happens in a country with active, real movement on the ground of people ruling themselves is other people step up or step in. There's a 30-year, almost 30-year history of the Bolivarian movement doing the same thing. You can't just pull up. So Maduro is not the Bolivarian Revolution. This is evil and it's a crime. But it wasn't, to say that you control Venezuela is silly. But the great irony is that that is true here. If you look at what I was saying about the coalition or the coalescence, really, it's more like a clot than it is a political movement. They all come together around this stooge, this buffoon, and act like it's a movement. There is no MAGA. There is no anything. They're just people who individually flock together because they share that same interest. And if you did have that kind of decapitation, impeachment, you'd see what you're seeing. It's amazing. Right. It would crumble so quickly that it would make Venezuela look like a paradise.
And Mr. Freeman, Donald Trump's actions, a lot of critics feel he adds to U.S. polarization, the divisions in America going into predominantly Democratic cities to cause chaos, basically, and then the fallout from it, adding to friction that's already there that he's caused before between states and federal government. Doesn't he see how toxic his leadership style is for America's stability?
That's an interesting question. I mean, again, we're not dealing with a stable human being, clearly, and megalomania is can't see things clearly, and so that's really what I can't profess to know what's in the man's head, but clearly the actions, the things are taken that he's not seeing things clearly. Even the things that he says and espouses are really strangely, bizarrely, childish and what you call it, somebody's not in reality, in touch with the reality. And so, but that's what you have when I have kind of an oligarchy where people, even with money, can rise to the highest, the most seat of power. And in this case, in the world, since the United States is an imperialist country, and that what he's doing around the world is, in fact, it's not even just what he's doing, because he may be doing more flagrantly. But your question was about the domestic stuff.
Netfa, on the domestic stuff, share with us what Americans want today. They want Trump to better address what? A cost of living crisis, unemployment, runaway inflation, homelessness. Yes, illegal immigration, his constituency wants him to address. Less support for Israel, more transparency in those Epstein files. And what is Trump giving them? Illegal mass killings of over 140 people on these dinghies, or nearly 40 dinghies in the Caribbean, aggression and the kidnapping in Venezuela, threats to take over Greenland, meddle in Iran's internal affairs, and then deploy soldiers to U.S. streets. What am I missing here, Netfa?
Well, you name there's a pretty good list there, an inventory. I mean, I didn't prepare to look to. It seems pretty full.
No, you basically ask yourself, what do you expect from Donald Trump, even as not you, but a Republican that voted for Trump? What do they expect from the man today, and what is he giving them?
Well, I mean, their polls are showing that his influence and his popularity is waning, even among the constituency that voted him into office. And a lot of that is not going to be coming out. I mean, actually, it does come out because a lot of the corporate media is not really down with him, so they will report these things, and we get those kind of those stories. What they won't do, and what we think we need to really be clear about, is many of the things that you named are bipartisan policies. They're not just done by him. It's maybe how he's doing it, more flagrant, even when what he says about it may be more, chilling and dare I say honest in terms of his opinion about why he's doing things. But a lot of that stuff, the foreign policy stuff, against Iran or wherever, Latin America, all these things are not, partisan issues. And so what's happening here is that and I think this is the difference, interesting enough. One thing is that when he was in what we referred to as Trump 1.0, and like our guest said, he's not a politician. So he didn't really know the lay of the land. He wasn't even talking. He was, he had seemed to be a little bit more into this platform about not getting the U.S. entangled in wars and whatnot. But this is how the United States is global economy and its relationship in the world. It needs to get entangled. I mean, that's how it works. So now he's coming to grips with not only into his own, not in hindsight, not only knowing that he has to do this, but enjoying it maybe. And then also the work around the domestic repression around the world, where domestic repression around the country, where he's gone full speed ahead with deportations, another policy that was being carried out by the Democrats before him, and there was been no policy, and then also meeting with the resistance to austerity and rolling back social service and all that, meeting that with more repression and just being honest and open about it.
And Daniel, it seems like, Netfa, it seems like we lost Daniel, so I'm going to put this last question to you, if you could. For a man who has no respect, Netfa, for international law, for maritime law, for humanitarian law, for international alliances and treaties in Donald Trump, no respect for even the U.S. Constitution or domestic law. He expects to stand up there and preach to the rest of us, to the rest of the planet, everyone from London to Moscow, from Paris to Tehran, from Bogota to Beijing, and he expects everyone to respect anything he says and stands for, and even threatens those, has the audacity to threaten those that don't.
Mm-hmm. Your question was, what do I think about that? Or?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, I think what's instructive, what we have to, as the collective humanity and I say global South, because I think that particularly African people and even indigenous people or non-white people in the U.S. are really, tantamount to domestic colonies, internal colonies. And so we have our interests more with the global South. And what we have to realize in this moment, and it's very important that we don't, we understand the particularities and specificities of a Donald Trump and that administration, but don't get lost in thinking that the quick fix, the quick solution would be to get Democrats back in office. I think this is an opportunity for us to understand and know that we need a full radical transformation of society from these systems of oppression. It's the system of oppression that allow and make fertile ground for someone like Donald Trump to emerge and assume offices, and we're not seeing any help whatsoever from people like in the Democrats. We'll give you an example. When they talk about Venezuela or even any of these kinds, they're talking, or like the kidnapping of Maduro, it's around what did he get the Congress to approve it and those kind of things, as if a law was passed, which they do all the time, that legalized some imperialist move or some repression, which they do, the militarization of the police within the U.S., then that would make it all right. And so we have to they wouldn't make it all right. It wouldn't make it all right for us. So we have to understand the underlining thing is the system in which Donald Trump sits atop of that needs to be transformed and challenged. And very
eloquently put. And thank you. That brings us to the end of our program. Netfa, Thanks for carrying us there because we lost Daniel about 5 minutes ago. Mr. Netfa Freeman, there, coordinating committee member of Black Alliance for Peace, joining us out of Washington, D.C. And joining us earlier was Daniel Patrick Welch, writer and geopolitical analyst, joining us out of Massachusetts. And viewers, this brings us to the end of your Spotlight program. Thank you for tuning in, and bye-bye for now.